Fractality explained in gravity. Gravity is charge self-similarity perfected non-destructive charge collapse, because of fractality, which is the cause and mechanism of gravity, which holds all atoms, everything, together. Acceleration relations is gravity. Gravity is a name for charge acceleration. Gravity is caused by golden ratio, phase conjugation, plasma vortex tuning inertia to Planck, demonstrated to our right, as only golden ratio, phase conjugation, allows those waves to add and multiply, recursively and constructively. When phase velocities, spin rate, period of charge rotation, add recursively constructively. Known as constructive heterodyning, enabled only by golden mean ratio. And so, when phase velocities add recursively constructively, that turns compression of charge into acceleration of charge towards center, towards Planck, whereby the adding and multiplying of phase velocities allows the charge to be accelerated into a fractal compression towards center. The process of acceleration of charge towards center due to fractal conjugation is the name for gravity, because golden ratio fractal phase conjugation enables constructive heterodyning of phase velocities, that is the cause of the acceleration of charge towards the center of compression, center of symmetry, named gravity. Infinite non-destructive charge collapse. When charge passes through center, Planck, it becomes a compressional wave, which is accelerated through the speed of light, precisely at the Planck threshold, down that perfected implosive vortex cone. The transverse electromagnetic wave inertia is converted, the name for golden spiral in hydrodynamics, in physics, is called optimized translation of vorticity. The inertia is translated from up and down transverse, critically, specifically at the Planck threshold, Planck length 1.61 times 10 to the minus 33 centimeters, into compressional or longitudinal EMF, named gravity waves. That propagating longitudinal wave reaches the compression necessary to propagate, at the velocities of golden mean ratio, times the speed of light, as measured by Professor Raymond Zhao, who sought the velocities faster than the speed of light, which are almost always between 1.5 and 1.7 times the speed of light, meaning golden ratio times the speed of light, is evidently the proof of the cause of gravity. As those faster than light phase velocities begin to explain the physics of stargates, portals and wormholes, all because of perfected nesting. Example highlighted in yellow shows how recursive constructive wave interference is established. The pattern of golden mean ratio is as such: 0.618, 1.0, 1.618, 2.618. Add any two numbers, and you get the following, or multiply any number by 1.618 and you get the next number. For example, 1.618 squared is 2.618, so having the solution to both adding and multiplying, which we've known for centuries, you also have the solution to recursive constructive wave interference, and that is new information. That's what the equations prove, thanks to their Klein-Gordon equations. Heterodyning refers to their layers of the wave formations. Gravity/acceleration explained. When charge enters the perfected vortex, down the golden mean spiral, recursively constructively interfering with one another towards center. Not only do the wavelengths add and multiply recursively constructively, but also the wave phase velocities add and multiply constructively, recursively, generating acceleration from compression as charge interferes constructively towards center. referred to as phase conjugation. That reaction is the cause and mechanism of gravity. Enabled only by this particular geometry, known as golden mean ratio, as it's the only way waves can enter the Planck threshold, and therefore be tuned into longitudinal waves, enabling constructive wave interference. As it enables charge to generate the correct escape velocity, to pass through the Planck threshold, as charge is tuned into the correct acceleration from compression. Gravity is acceleration relations. The kinetic energy from the child throwing the rock is an exchange of energy, which engages until the spin rate of centripetal force, longitudinal propagation, is brought back to its natural state of spin symmetry, longitudinal compression, which is what the rock will do when it hits the ground. Perfect nesting and perfected embedding is only possible when golden mean ratio 0.618 is enabled, as it enables connection to the Planck threshold, which generates access to the longitudinal array gravity grid, therefore enabling charge collapse, as all geometries within reality are a product of golden mean ratio, allowing the ability for multiple frequencies to inhabit the same space non-destructively, due to the ability of perfected collapse, due to the Planck threshold tuning all of life into centripetal force, in order to enable constructive wave interference, and therefore longitudinal embeddability. The reason why an object can fall to the ground. Fractality explained in phase conjugation in optics. Phase conjugate in optics occurs with four-wave mixing. If you get lined up, which the ancients call sacred four directions, correctly in physics, that's called four-wave mixing. How accurately the lasers have to converge in a cubed geometry in order to phase conjugate, implode, where the pine cones kiss noses, accurately called conjugation of phases, perfect implosion. At the center of those pine cones kissing noses, there is a universal wavelength. That wavelength is called Planck length and time, which is the musical key signature for every wave ever measured, because of longitudinal waves, which are gravity waves. The material used to allow those lasers of four-wave phase conjugation in optics is a phase conjugate mirror. The coating was wave phase conjugate dielectric materials, means super high dielectric constant materials. Capacitively they are implosive. Understanding what a super high dielectric constant is, you have to assemble http://goldenmean.info/phase conjugate visuals, https://goldenmean.info/phase conjugate, super resonant material, which is a material energy that consists of a constants, that's of a super resonant dielectric constant, aka highly fractal, which if perfected, the environment for charge resonance will generate propagation. Efficient resonant charge propagation. The definition for high dielectric constant, which means what allows to complete their pine cones to kiss noses accurately, meaning perfected charge resonant material, which means perfect charge distribution efficiency. Visual of four lasers converging into center perfected, creating negentropy, self-organizing energy, plasma. Fractality explained in phase conjugation, four-wave mixing, showing how to get phase conjugation. In optics, you must have those lasers precisely in four-wave mixing. This is the only way pine cones kiss noses. Whereby looking at the image to our right, a Nunaki stone carving, showing us the term, process, for accurately making lasers phase conjugate in optics. This is the first time ever to have measured negentropy. which is self-organization, which is time reversal. Time reversal meaning, a state of disorder can be brought back to order, not the other way around. Example, you can bring rusted steel to new, not the other way around. You cannot return in time to disorder, you can only time reverse to increased order. Fractality explained in negentropy. All of space is compressed into a key signature called Planck length, which is directly linked, codified with Planck time, which means they are linked to a fractal core musical key signature, called Planck length and Planck time, which if you times by golden mean ratio, Planck length or Planck time, you get almost the same fractal array, which is phase conjugation, which is the origin of negentropy. Negentropy is a term that describes the actions of an order in which life follows, which is self-organizing, self-replicating energy, self-aware, consciousness, life force, soul. This is the driving force for all life, which is golden mean ratio, perfected non-destructive charge collapse. Negentropic/fractality examples. Summary of fractality. Now, having been shown all examples and breakdowns to how fractality is expressed from the multitude of aspects, from the atomic level, blood cell level, mathematical sequence level, and now 4 laser mixing optics, which define all life, to negentropy, which means life consists of an infinite series of expression, which follows a codex that enables life to compress energy, plasma, charge infinitely, to sustain its own charge, energy, plasma, torus, or a field, known as life force, an equilibrium of expansion of consciousness, self-awareness. As to refer to self, one must be symmetrical, in order to measure self from center with accuracy, known as self-reflection, which is the definition of self-awareness, consciousness, being aware of self. Known as Planck, by being centripetal, enables mass, life force to take shape, known as a fractal, fractality, which is the embodiment of sound and light, which enables all life to consist of being 99.99% plasma, which all correlates to a center point of construction, formerly known as God, Mother, Father, Prime Creator, plus and minus charge, energy, plasma of the phase coherent, fractal, known as Planck, of the torus, or a field, that enables this infinite expansion series, known as life. Now we will be looking into the breakdown of the universe and how and what is a soul. Soul, spirit, or explained. What is spirit, soul? It is a coherent ball of plasma, charge, energy, known as a torus, or a field. The soul, spirit is encouraged when following the correct coherence of habitual patterns that encourage your DNA to braid, which is to experience bliss on an emotional level, which correlates to the golden mean ratio pattern sequence, which enables infinite non-destructive charge collapse, implosion, perfected compression, perfected embeddability, enabling the geometry of DNA to enter a higher state of spin symmetry, composition, the moment of awareness of self, as the coherence of emotion enables increased order, centripetal force, which causes the DNA to braid, which in that moment, you begin entering a higher dimension of spin symmetry, toroidal domain of reality. This is the moment awareness, consciousness, ensoulment is activated within you. This practice enables the energy, charge, plasma of your aura, torus field to become self-aware, which is the moment you obtain consciousness, awareness of self, the energy, charge, plasma you are, the individual mind and being that sets you aside from everyone else. Over time following this practice, you'll notice the ability to lucid dream. Lucid dreaming is your soul compressing into the astral realm. This connection of being able to lucid dream is the secret to knowing if you're ensouled, as it's formerly known as the collective unconsciousness, communion of saints, where all shareable wave energy, charge, plasma shares the same fountain of knowledge, which is known as wisdom. Understanding the mechanics of lucid dreaming. When someone's DNA has leverage on the magnetic grid, form the car, if your torus, aura is coherent enough to spit out magnetic coherence longitudinally, known as their rainbow light body, that's called having a soul, because you're centripetal enough that the implosion of charge, energy, plasma at the center, converts the transverse electromagnetic waves, frequencies, into more coherent, longitudinal, scalar waves, and that allows you to inhabit an array called dreaming tracks, song lines, collective unconsciousness, center of being valuable. Soul, spirit, or are visual examples. To the left is an example of what our soul looks like. Below that are the measurements of when the electromagnetic energy, soul, leaves the body after death, proving the existence of soul, energy, life force, intelligent plasma, spirit, soul caught on camera. This example of a nebula below, also referred to as stellar nurseries, are the building blocks to unlocking the hidden knowings about yourself. Your eyes are said to be the window of the soul, which refers to the color and its orientation, as it's the code definition of which nebula you first incarnated into existence, as this is seen as the place where you grew into the evolved being you are today, over a multitude of incarnations and experiences of expression, which is life. This is why you'll be able to distinguish between different incarnations, due to the consistency your eyes keep to. As it is the window to your soul, the energy you home from. Harmonic inclusiveness is ensoulment, harmonic exclusiveness is lack of ensoulment, similar to the Monsanto's mistake. Your charge, electric field, soul, spirit is also known as a cold plasma field. Plasma means cloud of charge. 99.99% of the universe is made of plasma. A cloud of compressible ether. Everything is plasma. Your aura is made of plasma. If your tornado, charge field of coherence, is coherently imploding and sustainable, you can throw your weight around. If you're not coherent, you're toast, you dissipate. That coherence is your aura field, which is referred to as your ka, the definition of life and death, pain relief versus pain, charge restored versus bleeding charge. Soul conception explained. The soul that inhabits the body is enabled by the conception of the emotional state each body adheres to. Here in the example of the emotional state of awareness, which is measured via the EKG example provided here to our bottom right. The emotional state of conception is a vibration, frequency, which correlates to what soul frequency can inhabit the body of the newborn. Having a child born from pain, suffering, hate, rape, the emotional level of conception would encourage a frequency soul level to come from that fractal array, that galaxy, that nebula, which wouldn't be as harmonic inclusive, ensouled, whereas a conception which was consummated in love, happiness, joy, consent. This frequency, vibration of this emotional state of conception, will be of a higher frequency, nature of order, harmonic inclusiveness, for the newborn. This is phase conjugation in reality, as both phases, frequencies, energies, heart rates, sort into alignment, which is what phase conjugation refers to, sorting into center, locking into phase, becoming synced in their emotional state of sacred exchange. This is how phase conjugation takes place in reality, life. Allowing all to witness how all compression of energy, charge, plasma, assimilates in this mathematical coherence in order for all life to exist. Inbreeding is the definition of removing harmonic inclusiveness, as we understand the more harmonics one has, allows better embeddability, leverage on the electromagnetic grid. As it is the definition of ensoulment, as the more harmonics one introduces into their existences is the definition of how immune health is measured. For example, if the harmonics were leaving a forest, this would predict the forest is dying. Whereas the opposite is true, for a forest being harmonic inclusive, alive and growing well. Spiritual evolution and ascension is simply how many harmonics are in your aura, how big is your aura, which is to apply all aspects of golden ratio to your life. Soul conception / shareable experience visuals explained. Phase conjugation example. Universe explained. Everything in the universe is made of a single compressible substance, nothing but motion, nothing but waves, known as frequency, known as sound, interconnected with light. And that compressible substance behaves as a compressible fluid, which is compressed and rarefied, called the ether, which is in fact charge, energy, plasma, and when we have compression versus rarefaction, in other words plus and minus charge, yin, yang, which is the root descriptor of centripetal forces versus centrifugal forces, aka plus and minus charge, whereby you have charge compression versus charge rarefaction. Infinite expansion of fractality, plasma, energy, charge, implosion, plus charge / centripetal, compression, rarefaction, charge / centrifugal, explosion. Meaning of existence explained. Everything in the universe is made of a single compressible substance. The meaning of life is expressed by the wave formation of the blood cell. This compression of a heart within a heart geometry provides us the clear understanding that love is the key to all life. It's explained that over incarnation to incarnation, you are shown how much love did one express in one life to another. Love is a frequency key signature that is harmonic inclusive. Below you will see the recording of love being shown as golden mean ratio when recorded during the expression of hugging one another, which shows us this is the secret to all life. Bliss is the emotional state that enables braiding in the DNA, whereby on the emotional spiral of spiritual awareness, we can concur love is in this same plethora of emotional expression, which shows how one should walk in life, in order to fulfill their deepest desires. Now moving on to action at a distance, portal technology, perfected telepathy, immortality. Side view of blood cell heart within a heart. Action at a distance, longitudinal wave mechanics explained. Explaining longitudinal wave mechanics, if you had 10 or a million billiard balls touching one another, when that ball connects, the bounce despite the length of the billiard balls is always the same, being instant. However, if they were slight away from one another, it would take years to finally bounce at the end of the length of the billiard balls. In this experiment, being that, because of that perfect stillness, locked into that crystal geometry, allows that efficient propagation velocity. This connectivity and geometry only allows this, which makes this possible. Which is a stellated fractal, star mother kit for visual reference, enables the propagation of longitudinal compression to move from one location to another. Where those points of longitudinal compression take expression/cross points, such as ley line/grid array of planets/nodal array of the universe. Stargate/portal technology explained. Here we have many examples of portals. In the examples, we see they all have organic origins within their structure. The reason for this is because the constants of the material is a superconductive material. Superresonance. Superresonance encourages energy, charge, plasma to become sorted, centripetal within this space, which is also encouraged, due to the geometry the portal takes, which is understood as the unified field, being circular. Being a circle enables all platonic solids to nest, embed, as they all embed within the unified field, controlling the constants of reaction within this perimeter, whereby enabling this equilibrium, you enable space to become fluid, like a membrane, due to longitudinal interferometry, whereby the portal compresses, implodes and propagates the longitudinal compressional wave into superluminal, faster-than-light velocities, which are golden ratio exponents. To the power of the speed of light, faster than light, those multiples of golden mean ratio times the speed of light, determine how many dimensions, axial velocities, are propagating faster than light, creating that infinite, multi-connected topology, enabling the accessibility to travel through the dodecahedron array, nodes of the universe, when placed on a ley line, also known as the electromagnetic grid. However, there are other geometries that stargates, portals can inhabit, which provide this same effect, such as a hypercube symmetry, which enables the largest number of golden mean ratio harmonics to conjugate towards center, enabling the ability to travel a greater distance, due to the number of harmonics cascading towards center, dictates, enables the distance to be traveled. Only enabled if the measured, weak electromagnetic field harmonics of the stargate portal are specifically tuned to implosion, golden mean ratio cascade harmonics, known as a phase conjugate pump wave, as it is the only way that enables those waves to become centripetal, therefore allowing those waves to go from compression to acceleration through the speed of light times golden mean ratio multiples, enabling access to the longitudinal interferometric array, which when touched will read the guidance of your consciousness and project you to that location, based on whether the current location you wish to travel to has the same portal gateway for you to enter through. However, only if you are a shareable wave, you'll be sent straight to your desired location. However, if you're not a shareable wave, expect to be spat out anywhere across the cosmos. Due to the entire universe is made of 99.99% plasma, consciousness energy, charge, plasma, it is key to understand the equilibrium we live within ourselves and to others. Portals are more of the same sequence, being replicated, golden mean, in different mediums, driving more of this coherent energy, plasma, charge to activate, such as the letters around the edge of these stargates, portals, known as the Ophanomenochian alphabet, known as the angel alphabet, which are the shadows of the golden mean spiral assimilated in different positions within the torus, encouraging longitudinal propagation. telepathy, astral travel explained. Where to go to make your spiritual powers to work, you go to where those pentadodecahedron, called pentadodecahedron, as a pentahedron, fits inside the same shape as a dodecahedron, you go to where the magnetic lines, known as ley lines, cross, because it allows you to embed into the longitudinal waves. For example, remote healing, encouraged by, if you both sit at magnetic line cross points when sending remote healing, it's DNA radio, great telepathy, used by the military. Why? Because of longitudinal embedding, which is also a form of astral travel. Reason why the magnetic line cross points are dodecahedron of the Earth, all plasma fields, is because it offers perfected centripetal force, perfected compression. Because the cross points of planets, all plasma fields, are sustained by golden mean ratio, which sustains its geometry, fractal composition. Those points, where the lines converge, to create the geometry, fractal composition, of all plasma fields, are the cross points which enable, reduced nucleus critical mass, due to perfected compression, sustainability of gravity, longitudinal embedding, propagation, because these cross points of convergence are dodecahedron, which enable ultimate compression, as it enables the transverse electromagnetic energy, charge, plasma, inertia, to become centripetal. Due to the geometry, the convergence of those lines, being golden mean ratio upon one another, allows those pine cones to kiss noses accurately, plasma vortexes, from opposing sides, phase conjugate, which enables compression, into longitudinal EMF, whereby the transverse electromagnetic energy, charge, plasma, inertia, can find a way out. By being compressed into longitudinal waves, within this space of infinite compression, see the Star Mother kit, to give you a visual understanding. These cross points allow all embedding of all transverse electromagnetic arrays, gravity diodes, charge, energy, plasma, waves, inertia, because the convergence of these cross points create longitudinal compression, which drives order, centripetal force, allowing all transverse electromagnetic arrays, gravity diodes, charge, energy, plasma, waves, inertia, that inhabit this space, to become longitudinally compressed. As all becomes tuned to Planck, enabling longitudinal embeddability, enabled by centripetal force. Everything pertains to being transverse electromagnetic waves, frequency, sound, interconnected with light, known as energy, plasma, charge, which all starts at tetrahedron, which is known as light, as a constants, which in order for it to exist non-destructively, God tilted the tetrahedron 32 degrees, which creates another form of spin symmetry, which enables the embeddability within the cube, known also as a hexahedron, created using the geometry of the tetrahedron, which then if you blink 5 times, with the cube, hexahedron, also referred to as tetracubic, tilted at 32 degrees and rotated it, you get dodecahedron, icosahedron, which is how all the S, P, D, F subshells, orbitals are established, which defines the entire atomic table, shown in examples prior. Showing embeddability is key, as it establishes how all transverse electromagnetic arrays, gravity diodes, charge, energy, plasma, waves, inertia, needs to be, in order to exist, non-destructively. Enabled by platonic solids, which are the building blocks for electron shell structures, and nucleus of an atom, known as hadrons, as they are golden mean ratio, in geometry. Shown in examples prior. As it allows all transverse electromagnetic arrays, gravity diodes, charge, energy, plasma, waves, inertia, the ability to exist, in the same space. as all geometry, pertains to embed perfectedly, enabling shareability of all charge, energy, plasma, waves, inertia, frequencies, to inhabit the same space, without collision. Due to perfected compression, as it enables perfected non-destructive charge, wave, plasma, energy collapse, enabled by all life being tuned to Planck, which is the musical key signature of the universe, enabling shareability, embeddability, due to longitudinal compression, which is what enables all transverse electromagnetic arrays, gravity diodes, charge, energy, plasma, waves, inertia, to exist in the same space, defining how all life pertains to being plasma, energy, charge, which takes form in the multitudes of ways we see today. And so, all wave nodes, song lines, ley lines, magnetic lines of their cross points, enable perfected compression, centripetal force, whereby at these cross points, due to all life pertaining to being a form of platonic solid arrays, enables perfected telepathy at these cross points, as it's in a place where all nodes, points of where the lines converge, of the fractal array, create sustainability of longitudinal compression, are made to perfectly compress, enabled by centripetal force. In other words, plasma vortexes converge, known as pine cones kissing noses accurately, at these cross points, which enables longitudinal compression of transverse electromagnetic arrays, gravity diodes, charge, energy, plasma, waves, inertia, within this space, as everything in this space becomes tuned to Planck, enabling longitudinal compression, longitudinal embeddability. And so, at these cross points, are where the transverse electromagnetic arrays, gravity diodes, charge, energy, plasma, waves, inertia, can travel and reassimilate at these various other cross points within the nodal array of the universe, due to longitudinal embeddability, as it allows the ability to travel and reassimilate at the areas where the compression is perfected. Longitudinal compression perfected, referred to the term known as action at a distance. This is where the convergence and reemergence takes place. Due to golden mean ratio, longitudinal embeddability, and so, remote healing, telekinesis and telepathy work perfectly at these spaces, places. Immortality explained. Immortality has already been shown to us in how energy, charge, plasma, soul, spirit, life force is created, which is through golden mean ratio, which enables perfected non-destructive charge collapse, infinite compression, which is the key to understanding how immortality works, which is the definition of life and death. Below to our left, we have the example of the spinning tops you have seen already. However, looking back over how this process works, is the key to understanding what life and death truly mean. So the spinning top, in reference to being centripetal, being the one stood up straight, will continuously spin, because the process of driving acceleration towards center keeps it continuously spinning. Whereas the spinning top, which is on an angle, will eventually dissipate due to its lack of centripetal force, causing it to eventually stop. Definition of death. As there is no charge radiance, centripetal force to keep it spinning, due to the spin form of focus, being centrifugal, out of alignment. Knowing that the geometry of golden mean ratio promotes this centripetal force, as it brings energy, charge, plasma, inertia, transverse waves to become mathematically coherent, sorted at center, via the Planck threshold, tuning all inertia, energy, plasma, transverse waves, charge to become centripetal, superluminal, as it enables inertia, energy, plasma, transverse waves to find a way out. Via being compressed, tuned into longitudinal waves via the Planck threshold, by a process called phase conjugation, sorting all phases into center, centripetal alignment, enabling the ability to propagate into longitudinal waves, also known as gravity waves, creates the environment for wave sustainability, infinite non-destructive charge collapse, therefore encouraging such practices of golden mean ratio centripetal force into one's life, encourages this infinite sustainability in one's life force, aura, and therefore enable immortality. At the center of this equilibrium of compression, energy, plasma, inertia, transverse waves, charge, becomes self-organizing, self-replicating, self-sorted. As it's the only way those waves can survive when entering the Planck threshold, enabled only by becoming sorted at center, centripetal, which is the definition of time reversal, bringing a state of disorder to order, which is what creates the necessary environment for immortality. Witnessed, demonstrated by the electromagnetic wavelengths emanating from the example below, creating the environment that enables this causation. Enabled by the harmonics measured from the pyramids, which coalesce within the Schumann harmonics, as they are tuned to enable centripetal force, and therefore the ability to enter the Planck threshold, as the harmonics measured, creates a cascade, caduceus, golden mean ratio frequency set, which is referred to as a phase conjugate pump wave, which creates implosion, negentropy, and therefore enable longitudinal compression, whilst also in conjunction of the geometry and material used, being fractal, known as piezo-electric, creates this equilibrium we see here, whereby this cascade of all attributes enables longitudinal propagation, negentropy, time reversal, immortality. For wave mixing golden mean visual breakdown. Immortality example. Here is an example of time reversal correcting someone's lung problems. This was said to be unable to be cured. However, when she went to the Giza pyramids twice, she already witnessed miraculous changes to her health, which are shown in the example to our right, showing that the driving force for life to exist, when replicated, we get restored order, formerly known as negentropy, which is self-organizing, self-replicating, life force, which is shown in the water sample near the Giza pyramids below, which shows the atomic shell structure as being fractal, showing the restored order within this space of equilibrium of coherence is maintained. We will show the influence of frequency in water, as this proves more that the world is condemned to negentropy. Manifestation explained. Now finally explaining how manifestation works. To our right are examples of the breakdown of what takes place when one uses their spoken words, which all denote from the construction of the different positions of the golden mean spiral within different phase angles of the torus, aura field, which was shown prior. Here we have visuals of the golden mean ratio spiral, which creates the vortex, which creates the composition of words expressed, shown in examples below, to our right, whereby in the example, bottom right, we can see the combination, each letter constitutes two, having its own geometry, following the vortex, cone, spiral of golden mean ratio geometry. Having all the letters combined into a single word, generates its own unique form of geometry. which is shown in the water samples, top right, which show the geometry words take, which we can see, enter a fractal composition. The individual words take, when combining the individual letters, when expressing words, in the higher spiral of emotional expression, they show to hold a clear distinction of clarity, purity in the way they express themselves, being a fractal composition. Whereas we can see the distortion of the UN fractal composition's words take, when expressing words, within the lower spiral emotional expressions. This is showing the influence one has, with the spoken word, as it affects all energy, charge, plasma around them, within them. Whereby the term referred to, permission to touch, is the ability of being able to understand the importance of consent within all relationships, which provides a similar effect within the environment, in conjunction to how the distortion or fractality words inhabit, we have with all consciousness, which is known as charge, energy, plasma, which is 99.99% of the universe. Mastering this is one of the many steps to take in order to become the ascended master, which humans were always set out to be. So having seen how water assembles itself, based on the words one speaks, this is key, in order to understand, your thoughts have the same projection, just without the motion of the spoken mouth, which is demonstrated, in the example R bottom right, which shows the influence of a group of students asked to change the color of this leaf gold, yellow, which was achieved and proven under an electron microscope, showing the power one's mind has, if channeled correctly. Manifestation experiment. Before, after. Manifestation visual example. Here we're going to show all types of word compositions, which have their own frequency and geometry, demonstrated here in the examples to the right, proving that we can clearly see the power of one's thoughts, that one has, as it drives the compositions that your cells take, dictating your perception and life experiences. As everything is a relationship, known as plasma, energy, charge, consciousness, shareable wave. Shareable wave visual example. Levitation explained. This is explained, the same way for how all flight takes place, which is enabled by generating your own center of gravity critical mass, by longitudinal propagation, enabled by how much centripetal force is generated, enabled by how symmetrical the torus, aura field is spinning. This center of gravity critical mass is generated when enabling centripetal force, that enables longitudinal propagation, which drives acceleration of charge, energy, plasma towards center, which is gravity, as acceleration vorticity is gravity relations. This driving coherence of centripetal force enables this ability to take expression. So as you become coherent/centripetal, you create a larger coherence of charge, energy, plasma, of your aura, torus field, which will generate your own center of gravity. Next we will be showing more evidence already discovered by others revealing this truth, as nature has the secrets to all flows of life. Levitation example. Here are examples of how nature unveils the mystery of flight. To our right we have a professor who studied the geometry of insects, whereby he noticed that the beetle's proportion of size, by the laws of nature and physics, The beetles should be too heavy for their wingspan and speed to carry them, so this discovery was found when looking at the shells of beetles under an electron microscope, which revealed sacred geometry at the atomic level, showing all life follows this pattern sequence in order to drive electromagnetic energy charge plasma to be coherent centripetal, which if enough centripetal force is generated, enables their ability to create the correct critical mass, to generate their own center of gravity, enabled by longitudinal propagation, generated from the structure of their shells, due to the cavernous structures effect, and sacred geometry patterning, enables this equilibrium, which enables levitation, whilst the wings themselves also create vortex propagation, due to the designs having small cone-shaped holes, which would be golden mean ratio orientated, allowing propagation of longitudinal compression, generating the ability to maneuver up or down, depending on the propagation of the wing rate of the vortex propagation, within its own center of gravity, within its own torus/aura field. See examples of this displayed to our right. Charge restored versus bleeding. Charge explained. Pain is charge bleeding from the body. Restore that area of bleeding charge by engaging in fractal, golden mean actions, performances, which is the very essence of healing, as you drive your body to become centripetal, which means to drive your cells, energy, charge, plasma into restored order, from the origin of your being, the center point of the infinite source of your soul, spirit, self-organizing energy, life force, negentropy, to reassimilate back to order, having come from disorder. This is also explained for cancer. Electromagnetically, cancers are unified field constants in your overall DNA constants makeup, which causes distortion in your overall charge, energy, plasma distribution efficiency, life force, which by restoring to the order of origin, which is to go fractal, golden mean, you restore the order your cells assimilate to, which is its infinite state, curing all disease. Here we have examples of the damage we occur during our daily lives due to the lack of knowledge of perfected energy distribution, as our electronic devices cause us a lot of harm, as they are not tuned to golden mean ratio, from the chipsets, to the overall frequency it holds at. Keeping within fractal practices increases centripetal force, charge radiance, which entail means you are increasing longevity within your aura field, torus field, charge, energy, plasma, life force, known as immortality. Growth explained. How to get a seed to grow, is asking how to get a seed to absorb a longitudinal array. The answer is get fractal or have it inhabit a fractal environment, which is exactly what Göbekli Tepe was made for. Which was to stimulate seed growth, which yielded 100%, because of the fractal design, as it enables order, centripetal force, implosion, negentropy to all energy, charge, plasma that enters this space. This also is in reference to fertility. As all life forces follow this very nature, in order to exist, as it encourages ensoulment, which is the infinite non-destructive charge collapse, life force, that sustains all mass, life forces, which is energy, charge, plasma, that enables all life to take flight, in its form, geometry, we know as mass. The seed absorbs the longitudinal array by becoming centripetal, fractal in its attitude towards existence, by becoming a shareable wave. One must become centripetal in order to enable the absorption of the longitudinal array. as this coherence enables the waveforms to form a rose, only enabled by golden mean ratio, to enable charge, plasma, energy to find a way out, by forming into a golden mean ratio vortex, known as centripetal force, implosion, enabling energy, plasma, charge to be tuned to Planck, which enables the energy, plasma, charge to be tuned into longitudinal waves, allowing the energy, plasma, charge to find a way out. In order to be self-sustain energy, charge, plasma, life force, known as infinite non-destructive charge collapse, known as your aurora field, torus field. Just as the sperm enters the egg, the indent caused, generates implosion, centripetal force, whereby we witness the visual representation of longitudinal arrays being absorbed in reality. Below we have an example showing the very essence of what absorbing a longitudinal array looks like, with someone being centripetal, enabling longitudinal arrays to emulate from them, which enables the seed to absorb this coherence, longitudinal array, which enables the spark that ignites infinite non-destructive charge collapse to take place within the seed, based on whether the attitude of the seed becomes centripetal. Energy/charge/plasma distribution without wires. Energy distribution efficiency without wires follows the same principles as everything else that exists. Having the longitudinal arrays, pictured in the example below far left, we witness energy, plasma, transverse waves, charge being compressed into longitudinal EMF, due to its geometry, dielectric constants and harmonics. It resonates at, due to the harmonics generating, what is called a phase conjugate pump wave, as it drives implosion, and therefore centripetal force, which enables waves to enter the Planck threshold, in order to enable longitudinal compression. Example of a phase conjugate pump wave, the Schumann harmonics, Earth's heartbeat, creates this cascade, which our golden mean ratio creates negentropy within this space of equilibrium, witnessed by our healing example prior. Replicating this pattern allows all electromagnetic transmission to be translated into harmonic inclusiveness, which can be picked up at a distance if the air is fractal and if the device has a longitudinal capacitor. Example bifilar Tesla coil creates this ability to establish energy, charge, plasma, waves, without wires. This is the key for how everything in life should be constructed, in order to be phase coherent with all life. Placing architecture like so, on a ley line, enables that coherence, longitudinal array, to be distributed, propagate, unpack across the planet, to those areas where this same environmental of equilibrium is maintained. As charge, energy, plasma can only unpack, propagate, in a fractal environment. This is how charge, energy, plasma, travels without wires. Key to our understanding, the equilibrium we should be living in. Rotating conjugators, zero-point energy, plasma, charge devices, enables centripetal force, as it generates implosion, and therefore the ability to enable waves, energy, charge, plasma, to enter the Planck threshold, and therefore enable longitudinal compression, which enables the ability to tune the surrounding ether, charge, plasma, energy, waves, inertia, that surrounds us. As you create an environment more coherent than around you, you create this equilibrium, which is to copy the same design. All life force follows, as it allows the surrounding ether, charge, plasma, energy, waves, inertia, to find a way out. Through longitudinal propagation, enabled by creating centripetal force, implosion within the surrounding ether, plasma, charge, energy, waves, being tuned to Planck, which rotating conjugators enable, which create propulsion, levitation, wireless power, fusion, zero-point energy. This technique is known as impulse drive, and warp drive refers to this same principle, but you use organic matter to create this wave function of charge, energy, plasma, wave collapse, zero-point energy, fusion. Following this sequence in all aspects of life is the way life intends to exist, and so should we.